Well, that was absolutely awful. That was absolutely just appalling. What a miserable game of football. I think probably, yeah, I'm going to say I think the worst performance under Ange Postecoglou. Um, yeah, not a good one. Not a good one. That must must do better. Um, I don't even know where to begin, to be honest. Um, where to start? Where to start? Why did we only show up? Why did we only show up with what on the 80th minute, 4-0 down? What good is that? And I know, like, people are saying like it means that we leave with a bit of dignity and stuff, but I don't know. I think it irritated me more than anything. We're so flat for so much of that game that to then show like right at the end that we can suddenly turn up and do something is just it's no good. I just don't see how we can justify that as a performance. Regard like injuries, I get it, but Brighton have got plentiful of injuries at the moment as well. Um, the lack of sort of real fight, real effort in that first half in particular has really rankled me. It's really stuck with me. It's so strange because it just seems so unlike everything that we've seen from Ange so far, right? Um, and we've seen that they're in there because we've seen in those final stages. Some people are saying, yeah, Brighton just dropped off a bit because they were so far ahead. Yeah, I can take that to a degree, but at the same time, I don't. At the same time, I see us actually working for one another, moving about, creating options for one another, passing the ball around with some kind of verve, players running with the ball, running at opposition players. It's a strange one. It's a really strange one, really strange performance, and really frustrating, really irritating. Because we could have capitalised on you know teams around us not doing as well as they maybe could have done. We're still sort of in touching distance of the teams at the top. And yeah, we got no right to go down to Brighton and take all 3 points. I understand that. But when we're sort of falling back on, yeah, but we've got injuries. Brighton have got loads of injuries as well. Brighton are missing some of their best players. I've got to say, in fairness, right, they've gone 2-0 up, and that was fair enough. Their third goal was an absolute worldie. It was an absolute screamer. There was no stopping that. It was unbelievable. And that really, I think that really compounded the misery, didn't it? It really, I don't know, it changed the complexion of the game somewhat, didn't it? When you feel that you've almost, I think maybe until their first goal, we dominated the game, we've looked good. To have them kind of score against, I would say the run of play. I would say it was against the run of play. And then to get the penalty, which was a penalty, annoying. Stupid from Kulusevski, that really. I mean, I would say that we see shirt pulls all the time in the Premier League, but yeah, I do admit that one was pretty blatant, pretty obvious. Um, so they've gotten the penalty. I still sort of feel like that should be galvanizing. That should be the galvanizing moment for the team. Not going 4-0 down, not suddenly at 4-0 down thinking, yeah, let's have this. Let's have a go. Um, Absolutely just a rancid performance, I think. And I do think Ange has to take some culpability in that. I think his game management was poor. I think the timing of the subs was a bit bizarre. Um, coming out coming out for the second half completely the same when it clearly wasn't working. We had no toward the end of that first half, we had absolutely no foothold in that game whatsoever. It looked like the tail end of the game against Everton. We were just really, really floundering, not doing anything at all. Not making changes at half time was strange. I mean, I get it. I've seen people debating this already on Twitter. Some saying, well, he doesn't want to be reactive. Maybe sometimes he needs to be. And I think we seen that, and we've commended him for that at the start of the season when he's made some reactive subs. He doesn't have anyone on the bench. He does, because he's shown that he does, because he brought them on for the tail end of the game, and we looked a lot better. We suddenly looked like we had more of an idea, more of a plan, more of a sort of sense of what we were doing. I don't know. It's really bizarre. It's really bizarre. The thing is as well, you know what? We were actually quite wasteful with opportunities. Richarlison probably could have done better with some of the opportunities that went his way. I don't really want to. I think he was like one of the least culpable this evening. So I don't. Do you know what I mean? I don't want that to sound like it falls upon his shoulders. My ire. I take it mostly with, I think, like Pierre Højbjerg in that first half. First half in particular was an absolute shambles. Tony Starks has said, I don't mean this confrontationally, but the Højbjerg stuff from you is weird, man. I mean, that is quite confrontational, Tony. I'm not going to lie, mate. There were 4 worse players than him on the pitch, at least. We got better because he took off the players who were doing nothing. No, I don't agree with you at all, mate, on that whatsoever. I think Højbjerg absolutely hid in that first half. I think he played at a canter. Don't think he never makes himself available for a pass. Doesn't like to be put under pressure. Waves his arms around, blames those around him. For their first goal, he literally just let the lad run past him. Didn't do anything at all. You know, I'm not having it. He plays in such a crucial part in this team, such a crucial part of this system, that everyone's sort of blaming Emerson Royale and Davis for that. They had like next to no coverage from Højbjerg at all, and that's literally why we're putting him in the team. I think if that's the case, just be pro. We hear about Ange and how proactive he is, and how, you know, caution to the wind he is in his approach. Why isn't he starting Lo Celso and Sarr, for example? We've seen what happens with Højbjerg time after time after time. There's no rhythm to the team when he's on the pitch. It's just a waste. Let's just get rid of him. Darren says stinky performance. Nick Shipley says lack of cover is huge. Didn't really look up to it. Mickey Bobbins says they look super tired. Yeah, I agree with that. Spurs Simpson saying Son was very off deck. He struggled. I'm sort of torn between. Some people were saying Son's preserving himself for the Asian Cup. I don't agree with that. I don't think Sonny does that to Tottenham personally. I just think there's every chance that he's just maybe a bit tired. And I also do think we sort of are starting to see that we see the best from him when he plays up top. I know he's had a couple of good performances playing out on the left, and I know it's partly to do with facilitating Richarlison, but I still like seeing Sonny up top. I would have liked to have seen more of Sonny through the middle today, playing against this Brighton defence, which was makeshift as ours was as well, you know. Louis F says, to be honest, it looked like they didn't fancy it at all until it became humiliating. Then they woke up to avoid humiliation. It was utter crap. Yeah, I agree, Lewis, mate. That's why I'm sort of annoyed that we did manage to turn up and actually make it. And do you know what? Honestly speaking, I thought we might get the draw. I actually did. When it went 4-2 up, and I could see that Brighton were absolutely just playing on fumes at that point and were clearly bricking it the second we started putting pressure onto them. I did actually think we might get it. We needed to get one of those chances. Veliz had that lovely little moment where it was a lovely touch and a lovely bit of control in the box, and Brighton were just onto it, just smart enough to stop him from getting his shot off. But that could have been his second goal, and that would have been Spurs' third. And I wouldn't have been surprised if we went and got it from there. but we were still a little bit sloppy, still a bit profligate with the opportunities that we were creating for ourselves. It was frustrating. It was really irritating. Drew Spencer says, where did it go? Oh, the things have just the comments just refresh, so it pushes it all to the top. Drew Spencer says, that was really hard to watch. Gave away terrible goals, squandered great chances. We looked lazy for most of the game. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Hacker says, Dan Kilpatrick says, we're Vibes FC. He says, I disagree. We're Vibrator FC and we've run out of batteries. I'll let you, expand on that metaphor if you want, Hacker. I'm not sure I'm with you there, mate. Nick Shipley asks, was that a dunk red card? Absolutely a red card. Some cowardly officiating there. It's because Spurs have scored the goal. They don't want to compound that with a red card for Brighton. It's a stonewall red card. We've had two that are exactly the same as that. We've had Romero against Chelsea, which is exactly the same as that dunk one, if not even as bad as the dunk one. And then we've had the Basuma one, which is sort of similar, I think. Absolutely a red card. And do you know what? At the time, the thing is, I was booting off about it at the time when we're 4-1 down. And I'm not sat there thinking, well, this is going to change the game. We're going to go and draw this 4-2. But then when we see the way the game turned out after that point, it could have made the difference. A red card for dunk that. And it was a red card. It absolutely was a red card. And this isn't whatever. I mean, I know like I've gone on about the sort of stuff about Spurs, the subconscious kind of bias against us since the Liverpool game. I don't even think this buys into that. I think this is just more about the absolute inconsistency with officiating in the Premier League. It just is so perplexing to me that we have VAR. We have something like VAR, which is supposed to, it does create some issues, but it's supposed to iron out a lot of issues. Why are we still seeing subjective calls constantly? And I know the point is that VAR is still run by human beings, whatever. But if we are going to, it just feels like we're working backwards here. We've added something like VAR, and sure, I get it. Like people are only human. We can't think of every single eventuality. But when there's a precedent that's been set by VAR one week, surely that gets written down, like etched into stone for all other VAR teams to follow subsequently. So why are we still seeing differing decisions week by week that are going to VAR? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. It's just another way in which VAR is shit. And it's such, I get it. I get this conversation is tedious. It's boring for everybody, but it's true, isn't it? Just get rid of it. Brian DeSacco says, cowardly from Johnson, Højbjerg and Royal especially. Højbjerg just doesn't have the legs or the ability to play Ange's way. Agree with that part. I don't know if Royal was cowardly, to be honest, mate. I'm not sure I agree with that. I just think he's kind of been shown up not only for not being a centre-back, but also having next to no coverage in front of him. I think Højbjerg's absolutely thrown him under the bus. So I'm sort of hesitant to really go in on Royal, given that he's stepped up every single time he's been asked to do so and playing in different positions and things. I don't think cowardly is the word I'd use. Johnson, again, cowardly feels a bit charged, doesn't it? But he does seem to be lacking confidence. He seems to be, it's funny, he's taken it like he burst onto the scene at Spurs, clearly keen to make an impression. He looked very exciting, very dynamic, very quick. Looked like he could cause opposition players a problem. And then it feels like things haven't quite gone his way for the past couple of weeks. And he's sort of disappearing into his shell a little bit. I hate to say it, but there's almost shades of Sessegnon there with it. Another player who I think has, and I've gone on about on here before, has a lot of ability, but often is held back by his own hesitancy. It feels like Johnson at times is just overthinking things a little bit. He had that one cross that clearly was just hit on instinct that flashed across the face of goal that Richarlison couldn't quite get on the end of. So we know he's got it in his locker. We know that there is that capacity in Johnson to play with instinct, to play with a bit of verve. But I think at times when he has a bit too much time to think about what he's doing, prime example of that being, I think it was actually, ironically enough, given how much I've dug him out, I think Højbjerg played the ball over the top that split the defence, and Johnson got on the end of it and just dithered with it, just dithered when really he should have gotten a shot off, a shot on target. Should have troubled the goalkeeper. Let's say that. So I think he did get a shot off and it came into the defender or something, didn't he? But he should have troubled the goalkeeper with that opportunity, and it was annoying. Grant Ecosonic says we were utterly careless at the back and pretty careless up front. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough, isn't it? It's tough to say sort of whether or not we were utterly careless at the back or if it's just players who are playing out of position, getting exposed a bit. I do again think that, I do think that oh yeah, again, I do just think having him in the team, it undermines a lot of what we're trying to do. I don't know. It was just irritating. It was an irritating night, an irritating performance, and we're better than that, and we know we're better than that. But it shows us really. It makes the point that Ange has been making in this pre-match press conference that we need more players. We need to bring in players as soon as we can in January, because the options we have available to us aren't good enough, clearly. Ange clearly isn't as much an advocate for giving youth a chance as we were maybe led to believe. I feel like that was part of the sort of package with Ange Postecoglou, is likely to have a go with some younger players. It feels like he doesn't really fancy it. I think he cancelled Donnelly's substitution, which, fair enough, but not still being so hesitant with Dorrington and Phillips. I don't know. I'm not fully all in on the idea that they definitely should have started, and it's on him that they didn't. And I still do stand by a lot of the idea that it's dangerous potentially to throw young players into games like this when there's a lot of pressure on them, because it's somewhat unfair, isn't it? I do think, however, that watching that back tonight, the case has to be there for maybe one of them getting some minutes now, because I don't know. It just does. It feels like that's an opportunity. FA Cup, right? We've got the FA Cup coming up. I know we got Bournemouth first. FA Cup. Give them a go in that. I know we want to stay in the FA Cup, and I know I'll probably be one of the first to be complaining that he's thrown the FA Cup and all that type of thing. But, it just doesn't feel good. I'm just checking. I've just seen that West Ham are still 2-0 up against Arsenal, which kind of softens the blow of this a little bit. I know now I've said that on the 85th minute that Arsenal are probably going to go and win 3-2. When I came upstairs to start recording this, they were still 2-0 up, and I said to the lads on WhatsApp, they're still going to win this 3-2. So let's not celebrate that one yet. What says gutted, annoyed, but I remember me and everyone saying there will be growing pains and bad results at the beginning of the season, and that was before injuries. We will be okay, just might have to suffer. Yeah, I mean, I do get that. I do get the idea of there being growing pains, but it's frustrating when we have started the season so well, And I know this is partly down to injuries. It's largely down to injuries, really. Let's be honest. It's just frustrating, isn't it, that we've got Manchester City having an iffy season, nobody really running away with it at this point. And I think we're all just sat there thinking, again, could this have been the opportunity? But, you can't really think that way because we got injuries and that's just what happens. That's part of the course and it's annoying. And, you know, that's that, isn't it? That's that. Mark Lobley says PH was fine. Why do you expect so much from him? Because I don't think he was fine. I don't think it's expecting so much from somebody that they can at least do a halfway decent job, and I don't think he does. That's and I would say I've been consistent on this since like 2020, really, before it was a popular take. So, I don't know. Being asked by OSR, you really think Davis has been bad? To me, he seems the only player at the back who seems comfortable at all. No, I haven't said at any point. I think quite the opposite. I've been saying for weeks that I think Davis has been really, really good. I think, okay, my point was that the players at the back who are playing out of position are maybe getting exposed a little bit, but I don't think that's saying Davis has been bad. I think it's just the reality of what's happening here. That Davis can maybe play a decent role alongside somebody like Romero or Van de Ven or whatever, but when it's him and Royale playing alongside one another, I don't think they're doing one another any favors, really. It's what it is. But I think Davis has been, pretty amazing for the time. I don't know. Darren says Son shouldn't play on the left. Yeah, I largely agree, to be honest, mate. But I think it is mostly us just facilitating Richarlison, isn't it? Which, it feels kind of like, why are we removing one of our best players from what I think is probably his best position to facilitate Richarlison? I know we're light on personnel, but I was going to say I think Bryan Hill did okay when he came on, but I don't know if he's the answer either, to be honest. It's just it's a frustrating evening. It's a frustrating result. What can we do, really? It's just, it is what it is. Bournemouth are looking very good as well, so I don't think that game's going to be straightforward either. We might just have to ride this one out and just hope we can bring some signings in. Let's do the players. Let's do the players, because I realise I'm just sort of ranting here, and it feels like people are getting annoyed with me, getting annoyed with each other in the comments. Is what it is. We're all just pissed off, aren't we? Because Spurs have lost at the end of the day, lost 4-2, and it's shit seeing your team lose that much. Let's do the players, though. Guillermo Vicario, just amazing. I know he's let in 4 goals. I think some people have blamed him, said he was a bit, quaver-wristed for the first goal. I think that's unfair. I think it was just, bit of a pile driver into the back of the net, pretty close range. Don't really think he could have done anything with the third goal. Penalties, is what it is. But some of the saves he's pulled off, when it was still 0-0, that save he pulled off was unbelievable. He's pulled off a number of decent saves to reduce the scoreline tonight, to be honest. It's pretty poignant timing, given that Lloris is probably on his way out of the club in the next few days. But I honestly think Vicario, what I've seen of him already, I think he stands head and shoulders as probably the best keeper in this period already, thus far anyway. Best keeper I've ever seen at Spurs in my life. And Lloris has been an unbelievable club servant. He has been, and he's done it for a long time. But he's also had a lot of wobbles in that time. And I think we've extended him a lot of courtesy because he's been such a good player for us when we've waxed and waned throughout various different periods. I think Vicario is something else. I think Vicario is just a more complete player than Lloris has ever been. I think, Lloris's kind of shot stopping, which was his major strength, really, his cat-like reflexes. I think Vicario's got two. And added to on top of that, Vicario can claim the ball in the air. Lloris has never been able to do that. He can actually play out from the back. Lloris has never been able to do that. He can kick the ball. He can distribute the ball pretty nicely. I just think he's got so much more to him than Lloris ever had, and that feels harsh. And maybe the comparison doesn't need to be made, but it's what often happens in football, isn't it? He's an unbelievable player. What a fantastic piece of business. And it's the sort of goalkeeper that wins his shit, really. I think he's just an astonishing player. Hopefully we got him. What is he, 27, 28? He's a lot older than I thought he was, and a lot of other people thought he was. I thought we were getting like a 23, 24-year-old keeper. He is coming into his prime, so hopefully we've just signed him at the right time, that he's not going to get poached from us. I mean, you can never rule out a Madrid or somebody when they fancy having a goalkeeper saying, here's 80 mil for him. But I'm not sure I see that happening. I think he might be our boy. And, like I say, what is he, 27, 28, I think? Let me just double check that now. 27 years old. There's every chance he's playing for nearly another decade, playing till he's about 35. So, Italian keepers, if they've got one thing, Italian keepers, it's longevity. They've demonstrated that on many an occasion before. So, Vicario could be a real one for us for a long time. Emerson Royale, look, I know we've sort of covered him off a bit. People are giving him a lot of pelters. He wasn't great, but he's been asked to do a job that he's, not comfortable with doing, right? He's not a centre back. He's given it his best shot at every possible opportunity. I just think fine. I don't think he had much protection. Again, I've said that already, but I don't really want to, jump in on him, because I think he's been okay. Sorry if I'm getting a bit distracted. I'm just checking to see what Arsenal are doing. They're still 2-0 down, 96 minutes. I mean, this is awful. It's awful. And I know people say you should just concentrate on Spurs, but for me and for many other Spurs fans, I don't think it works that way. I think Arsenal's pain, Tottenham's pleasure, these two things just go hand in hand, right? And them obviously knowing that they are fucking up an opportunity to put further distance between themselves and Manchester City and what have you. It's pretty beautiful. It's pretty, because we cannot be having Arsenal win the league. And it's a nice sort of side story here to Declan Rice losing his first game against West Ham as well. I dare say that has been part of their motivation in this. Anyway, Emerson Royale, fine. Pedro Porro, not one of his best performances tonight, but again, how much of that is on him? I don't know, really. I don't know. He's apparently, hang on. Apparently, Declan Rice has just given away a penalty, but they've missed it. That's well annoying. Said Benrahma, what are you doing, lad? What are you doing? That would have been the perfect little cherry on top, though, wouldn't it? Pedro Porro, look, fine. I think he was trying to make stuff, having a couple of decent deliveries in there. I guess he was probably more just concerned. He was pinned back a bit by having to babysit for the defence. I think I would probably say also the same of Destiny Udogie. Didn't see the best from him until later on in the game, when we were throwing caution to the wind and we were just going with it. It's it's fine. I think those two are we don't need to. I don't think we're going to find out much about Pedro Porro or Destiny Udogie in a game like this. We know how good they are. We know how important both of those players are to this team. they were fine. Ben Davis, again, I've sort of spoken about him already. I think he was fine. Pierre Mohoybier, look, let's just be amicable about this and just say, as I said in the preview to the game, he's a good player who is playing in a system that highlights all of his weaknesses and amplifies all of his weaknesses, if anything. So it's to be expected. Give him a break. We're probably going to sell him to Juventus in the next few days. And then we can say goodbye and not have to worry about it anymore. Fine. And I'm sure he'll do amazingly in the Serie A. And somebody will send me a video of an amazing defense spitting pass or a screamer that he scores. Fine. I know he has this in his locker. But at the same time, it just doesn't work for Spurs. I think he saps just life from the team, from the way we play. I don't want to see it. Like, everyone digs out Skip. Everyone loves going in on Skip. I think the team looks miles better when Skip's in there than Højbjerg's in there. I'd rather not see either of them playing in there. Don't get me wrong, like starting games. But I still think Skip is a bit more on message than Pierre Højbjerg is. Pape Matar, night to forget for him. It's barely even like he played. You know, he was practically anonymous. And that's a shame. I'm going to blame Højbjerg again. But, you know, I've got a lot of love for Sarr, and I think he's shown that he's an amazing player. We need players like him. We need his thrust on the pitch. I would have liked to have seen him start alongside Gio Lo Celso, because why not? Let's give that a go. But yeah, a night to forget for Sarr. Like I say, it felt like he was barely even present. Didn't really even feel like he was on the pitch. So, you know, it's what it is. Dejan Kulusevski grew into the game when everybody else grew into the game, but a subpar performance from him by his own high standards. Silly to give away that penalty. I think he sort of rattled himself a bit with that, to be brutally honest. He played within himself a bit. Even when we were getting back into the game later on, he was misplacing a few passes. He had a couple of bits where he was wasteful in possession. He had that one nice bit when he cut in and had a shot. I want to see him do that more. You know, I know the shot sailed over, but I want to see more of that from Decky. We know that he used to play with that kind of verve, didn't he? I've said verve a few times tonight, but he used to play with that verve. There you are. I'm saying it again. Someone look up some fucking synonyms for me. But eccentricity. There we go. That electricity, that dynamism, where he would cut in and just have a shot or try an ambitious pass. And it sort of disappeared from his game a little bit in the late era of Conte and the start of this time under Ange Postecoglou. He was being heralded more for his hard work than he was for his, you know, tenacious ability on the ball. But we are starting to see that back with Kulusevski. So, look, he's a young player. I think we forget that sometimes. He's 23 years old. He steps up on plenty an occasion when we need somebody to. And today just wasn't his night. It was a night to forget. But, you know, these things happen. Brennan Johnson. I've sort of spoken about him at the top, haven't I? Maybe a bit of a night to forget for him. But maybe not just a night, a bit of a period to forget for him, really, if we're being truthful about it. I think he's not been himself for a few weeks now. And I just think what he needs is a goal. I think he needs a goal, really. He needs to slap one of those opportunities into the back of the net and get a bit of confidence back. A goal, or at least a performance when he's absolutely terrorized the opposition. When he's run at them, he's skinned the defenders, he's put on a couple of assists or whatever. He just needs a big performance, and I think that will hopefully get his head right again. And look, again, I always go on about this. We're not inside the player's head, so I'm always somewhat hesitant to be like, he's actually feeling this or he's feeling that, because we don't know that. But from watching him, it feels like he's playing within himself a bit. That's what I would say. That's where I kind of get that from. Spurs Simpson says Johnson needs to take the fear of failure away from his game. Yeah, exactly that. That's how it feels, right? Yeah. Son Heung-min, night to forget for him really as well. I don't like him playing out on the left, but it is what it is. I just think when he plays on the left, if it's not going well for him, he gets completely cut adrift. I think let's just play him through the middle. But Son, we're gonna miss him. Like Sonny's, that's it now. He's going, and it's bleak. It's bleak because he's just such a brilliant player. He's had such a good season. He scored so many goals. It just, is what it is. Richarlison, he did it. Like I say, he did a few all right things tonight. He had that one opportunity where he turned and shot. I think he had more time than he maybe thought he did. He kind of snatched at his shot a bit. He could have probably done better there. And this is kind of the point I make where I think of that an actually proper top class striker scores a goal in that sort of position. We kind of make excuses for Richarlison, like, well, he was snatching at it, or I don't think he was anticipating it, or, well, he tries hard. That's fine, but Harry Kane scored those type of opportunities a lot of the time. And yes, he does need to be compared to Harry Kane, but then let's have, say, like a knockdown version. Ivan Toney probably scores goals like that, right? But I don't want this to come across as like a real sort of dig out of Richarlison, because I think he was all right tonight. I think he was actually one of the better players out there for us tonight. Greatest boss he's ever had says Richarlison isn't clinical enough for our style of play. And I agree with that. I do agree with that. And I think that's been my point about Richarlison this whole time. If we do get offered a decent amount of money for him in January, I'd take it. There's a lot linking us with the Stuttgart lad, isn't there? He's got a minimum fee release clause. I'll be honest. I watched his goals so far in the Bundesliga. To me, he has the look of a player that absolutely bombs in the Premier League. I'm not going to lie. I don't know. It feels like he's in a real hot streak. It looks. I've never. Is it Guirassy, his name? Apologies for the pronunciation, but it looks like he's going through a bit of a spell where things are going his way. But I don't think he looks. I don't know. He just looks a little bit. I don't know. Crap. Not crap, just sort of clumsy with his touch. His finishes are all a little bit. They're all just a bit Bundesliga. Do you know what I mean? They just kind of roll past the keepers. I do think the quality of the Bundesliga isn't that great, is it? Let's be honest. Whatever, beers in the stadium, fan ownership, cheap tickets, all those things are brilliant. But the football quality, let's be real, is not all that. So, I don't know. Who came on? Gio Celso came on, had a good amount of time. I mean, gave away a penalty, pretty frustrating, but he was pretty decent in helping us maintain that pressure to attack as many times as we did in the closing stages of that game. I think it's a shame that he didn't start alongside Sarr, but I've said that already. So it does. I mean, a lot of people were very annoyed with him for giving away the penalty, and I get that. And I'm often a pretty harsh critic of Lo Celso, but I think he was okay. I think he helped, like I say, to make us look all right in the closing stages of the game. Brian Hill, I think it was a bit of a mixed bag for Hill. I do think he worries opposition players until they suddenly realise he's not really doing anything. He kind of runs at them, does a couple of like feints, and then just generally sort of turns back or plays the ball inside. Most of his passes are pretty safe. Um, and he doesn't really ever seem to dribble past anybody. He sort of dribbles at them and makes them back off and makes them look a bit scared, but you know, doesn't doesn't really do anything. But I don't dislike him still. I don't feel enough towards Brian Hill to say no, not going to work. Get him out of the team. I think he's okay. Um, And yeah, that's sort of where I'm at with him. Alejo Veliz, look, good moment for the young man coming on, getting his first goal in English football. It felt like a bit of a mishit, but went in the back of the net. He was in the right position to capitalize on the ball coming to him. He got it there, and as I say, his touch and turn in the box, which nearly got him a second goal, was nice. It was promising. And I think after he did get the goal, as is typical, he grew in confidence. And it felt like he was buzzing around the box a lot, trying to get on the end of things, trying to put himself forwards as an option for people to pass to. So, yeah, I think he seems decent, but we don't really know enough about him. I was saying in the preview pod, what I would really like from Veliz now is to see him get a loan to an English team. And that's not to sound Brexit or anything like that, but he's here to learn not just, how to play in this Tottenham team, but also he's got to learn a whole new footballing culture. He's got to learn a whole new society as well. He's a young man moving halfway across the world to England. He needs to get used to that. I know it's all cliched shit, but he needs to get used to the weather, needs to get used to all of it, the food, the customs. So let's keep him in England. If we can get him a championship loan, nice. Get him to a decent team in the championship where he's going to get some minutes, play some football, because he feels far too raw for the first team. That's what I'll say of him. He seems far too raw for us right now. We really need some more options. We need a centre back, we need another midfielder, and we need another attacker. Whether that's a striker or a versatile kind of inside forward winger dash striker like Sonny is, kind of like Richarlison is a bit. We need that. We need more backup there. But it's it's an annoying one. It's an irritating evening, that one. It's it's just frustrating. Arsenal losing though, it does soften the blow. I'm sorry, softens the blow. Hacker says Arsenal pain is delicious, a delicacy. Grant Echo Sonic says my hatred of Woolwich predates my love of Spurs. Ironically enough, like it's PG says I'm stuffed after Christmas, but can still make room for an Arsenal defeat. Bang on, Tom Foynes, hello mate, says, I think it's mad we've made it this far into the season before seeing a performance like that, given how we played like that every week last season. Very true, mate. Very true. I mean, we've seen little glimmers of that, haven't we, in various different games, but nothing for a whole match really like that, barring the last 10 minutes or so. So is what it is. A frustrating one, a night to forget for Tottenham, but these happen from time to time, and we just got to hope that we can address some of these squad issues, and also really let's beat Bournemouth as well because they look really good. Arola's kind of got them going. They spent a lot of money. I spoke to Brighton lad at the start of Bournemouth lad at the start of the season. And he was saying that they've actually spent a lot of money. They've had new owners come in. This sort of idea of it being a bit of a fairy tale or whatever is not true. They've got a good manager. Not, he wasn't saying that. I'm sort of jumping in on what was being said in that, you know, they've got a good manager in there now. They've got an ownership that wants to see them succeed. It wants to see them kick on. They spent a fair amount of money this summer. And we're starting to see that now. They are in very, very good form, which is frustrating as we come into this game against them. But what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We'll talk about that another day. For now, though, thank you, everybody, for listening. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube, if that's where you're watching it. If you do, I've been sort of mentioning the pre-match preview. If you do want to listen to that, as well as all the other content that's on Patreon, patreon.com/RTRpod. If you're not tired of my voice by now. And even if you are, there's other people talking on that one as well. So you can do that. Often I try to, anyway, on the previews as well, get an opposition fan on, speak to them about their club, get a bit of a inside knowledge on what's going on, blah, 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 you know. But yeah, a frustrating one, a night to forget, but we've got a lot of good players to come back. Hopefully we're going to make a couple of signings. Is what it is, isn't it? Sometimes these things happen. You just have to get over it. But I think we know we're on the right track, and we know there's enough good stuff coming out of Spurs right now that we can be at least grateful and positive about the future under Ange Postecoglou. We might have lost tonight. Yeah, that's fine. We might have lost tonight, but so did Arsenal. So fuck them. Up the Spurs. Come on, you Spurs. Much love, everyone.